Hi everyone, Dr. Emmy from Pain Free and Fit. Today, for those of you who have been following the channel on our spondylolisthesis exercises for the last several years, we're going to take a turn because we're going to discuss the unique circumstance where tail under or posterior pelvic tilting is actually dangerous for your lower back condition. Stay tuned and enjoy. So if you've been following our channel over the last several years, you know I've put a lot of videos out and a lot of exercises having to do with spondylolisthesis, and I say that in most cases of spondylolisthesis, the arch in the lower back needs to be flattened because too much of an arch, meaning the tailbone comes up or the upper body leans backwards, mechanically forces that spondylolisthesis vertebra to drive more forward. And that pinches the disc in the back, that causes a facet joint, which are the joints in the back of your spine, imbrication, where they come together. It creates muscle shortening and leads to a lot of spondylolisthesis pain. It also stresses all the ligaments in the spine in that way, which are already stressed because the vertebrae slip forward. So we've always talked about, up to this point, exercises to keep the tail under, finding your neutral range of motion. If you bring your tail up too much one way or under the other way, you're going to notice some limitations or some symptoms of pain or stretch. And I always talk about finding the neutral or middle position there, which for most people with spondylo is a tail under direction to flatten the lower back arch. However, today we're going to talk about a case that does arise in people with spondylolisthesis where keeping the tail under is actually a dangerous thing. And here's why. In spondylolisthesis, you have to try to determine if your pain is more due to facets, more ligamentous, more muscular, more disc in nature. But for people with disc problems, meaning herniations and bulges that have moved backwards, where the center of the disc, the nucleus, has moved backwards and is causing a bulge or a herniation on the back side of the disc, if you tilt the tail under, what you're doing is you're actually flattening that arch and increasing the compression on the front of the spine. When you do that, what happens is the jelly or the nucleus in the middle of the spine starts to ooze or is pushed more backwards into that bulge or herniation, aggravating your symptoms. So that's why some people with spondylolisthesis, holding the tail under and flattening the back and doing all this flexion work is actually detrimental. Now, I've always said that you need to make sure that your exercises are targeted for your unique condition. I have people writing in all the time on the channel. What does this mean? It means that you need to do an assessment of your spine. What's causing pain? What is your posture? Where are your instabilities? Where are your muscle imbalances? This all has to be known for your unique case before you assign any exercise. So for people who, when they arch their lower back, they may feel discomfort because the back of the disc herniation is being pinched, they need to consider the fact that perhaps it's not just flexion that needs to be done, but we need some degree of extension to help that disc material move more back to the center. Because when we arch the back of the spine gets compressed, and it takes that herniated nuclear material that's backwards in the disc and helps to move it more back to the center, relieving pressure on that backwards herniation or bulge. Now, the problem with this is that if you go into straight extension or just arching back or lifting the tail, many times it's going to pinch the back of the disc. That's going to cause more pain. So we need to create a situation where we're increasing the arch slightly, but not enough to pinch the back of the spine. And a great way to do that is to use traction. If we traction or vertically elongate the spine in that position and then put a little bit of arch in, but not enough to cause pain, that little bit of arch with traction is going to help to take that disc material and move it back towards the center, thus relieving our pain. So here's a great simple exercise to do that. You take a bench, or you could take a kitchen counter or dip bars if you have them. It doesn't matter if your feet are still touching the ground or if you're totally off the ground, although I prefer, especially in acute situations where your back is really bad, to use a modified semi-weight bearing stance. So in this instance, I'm going to keep my feet on the ground. I'll hold the bench, and I'm just going to lock my elbows. This isn't a triceps exercise. And I'm just going to push my body up a little bit. What I'm doing here is shoulder depression. My shoulder blades are pushing down, activating my lat muscles slightly. When my lat muscles are contracting in this position, there is a slight extension effect or arching effect. So if that's painful enough, then keep your tail under just a little bit so it's comfortable. And in this position, you'll notice you'll feel your lower back start to vertically elongate. You'll feel some decompression in there because you won't be weight bearing as much. My knees are off the ground in this position. From here, I want to explore a pain-free range of motion where I slowly lift my tailbone just to the point of feeling perhaps a mild edge of discomfort. I don't want to go into the discomfort or pain, but I want to flirt with the edge of it. I'm going to hold that for a second or two and then release it. Again, I'm going to raise it up. And you may not see much motion in my body. It's a very slight motion. I'm not trying to arch my back where my buttock is coming way up, unless, of course, my range of motion allows that, my pain-free range of motion. But I want to use, sometimes it's literally a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch motion, where because the back of the spine is being elongated and decompressed, I can now get a little more extension in, whereas if I was weight-bearing, that same amount of extension may pinch and hurt me. But by decompressing now, since the back of the spine has been opened, I can get a little more of that motion in. And as I arch my back by lifting the tailbone and holding for a second or two, and doing reps of, let's say, 10 or 12, I'm actually causing that disc fluid to come out of the bulge or herniation and move forward towards its central position. That will help to relax me in terms of the pressure on that disc. And if you do this and notice relief, you'll know this is exactly the kind of decompression exercise that you require for your problem. Again, this is one exercise just to decompress the disc. It's not a total package of rehabilitation. You need to know exactly what your mechanical flaws are so you can work on your muscle imbalances. You can start strengthening up your stability issues. You can learn more about that at our Spondylolisthesis Fast Track program available at painfreeandfit.com. It has a full body analysis. It teaches you step by step how to build your own routine by selecting exercises that target your specific mechanical flaws. Helps you get back into shape and avoid aggravating your lower back while adding the protection of a good stability program for your spondylolisthesis low back pain. Questions or comments, write in as always. I'll do my best to answer them. If you'd like to learn more spondylolisthesis exercises, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And remember, I'm always available through Zoom for online consultations for those of you who have been doing the Fast Track program. Some of you do it and find that it's great, it works for you. I got a lot of great comments coming in. But others that may have a few questions and can't quite figure out what their analysis is of their body, we can always do that online. Again, that information is on painfreeandfit.com. I hope this video on decreasing posterior pelvic tilting and actually using traction and a little anterior pelvic tilting helps those of you with disc problems that are creating the majority of your spondylolisthesis pain through herniation and bulges.